Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Rosenberg. I'm the Executive Director of the New Israel Fund in Australia. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this conversation with Yair Golan, the leader of Israeli Democrats. I'd like to acknowledge the land on which I'm calling into this webinar on and the elders, the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Bunurong peoples of the East Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land, and to pay my respect to their elders past and present. And as I always say on our calls with the New Israel Fund, I hope for a day where we can recognise both Palestinian and Jewish history in the land of Israel and have a similar acknowledgement or welcome to country. Tonight's discussion is a very exciting co-presentation together with the Jewish Independent, Ameinu, Hashomer Tzair and Hatikva. And I thank them for their involvement and encouragement for this evening's call. Before we jump in, I wanted to say that I often hear people ask me about hope and leadership in Israel and ask where they can find hope in order to continue to support the country and to push forward for better days. And the follow-up question is always, well, where are those leaders? Where is this leader that's going to come out of the woodwork and make tough decisions and lead us towards a more peaceful reality? And I think many of you who would be reading and watching what's going on have seen the words and actions of Yair Golan as one of those beacons of leadership. And we've been watching Yair, like I'm looking at you now in the screen as well, watching and you've been giving us a lot of hope, and we wanted to share that with the wider community here in Australia. We've got almost 200 people on the line here. Many of you are new to the New Israel Fund as well. And just a few words about our work. We really work to support human rights and civil rights organizations in Israel to make sure that they can continue doing the work to ensure that Israel is a democratic, just and equal country. And we're so proud to be talking with Yair Golan tonight to hear his thoughts on that as well. A short bio before we jump in. Yair Golan is an Israeli politician, leader of the Democrat Party, and a senior military officer. He served as Deputy Minister of Economy in the 36th Israeli government and served as a member of the Knesset from 2019 to 2022. He's a reserve Major General in the IDF, an infantry officer by profession, and served as IDF Deputy Chief of Staff, General Officer Commanding of the Home Front Command and the Northern Command. In May of 2024, Golan was elected as the leader of the Israeli Labor Party on a platform of merging with the Meretz party. In June of 2024, the two parties announced an agreement to form the new party, the Democrats, and designated Yair Golan as leader of the new party in July 2024. Tonight, we're also joined by Michaela Kolovsky, who will be conducting this interview. Michaela is an interviewer, moderator, and curator for Writers and Ideas Festivals. She's interviewed writers, historians, academics, and thinkers from the world of arts, science, and politics. She worked for the ABC for 13 years and has conducted radio interviews and presented programs across ABC radio and TV. We were lucky enough, those of you in Sydney would know that she recently joined us for an event with Gershon Baskin and Samuel Sinishwali in person. And over the years, she's been lucky enough to interview people including Margaret Atwood, Amos Oz, Tim Winton, Etgar Keret, and now Yair Golan. So without any further ado, I will hand it over to you, Michaela, and thank you all very much for joining us. And my last words will be is that we'll have a survey popped into the chat that we'd love to hear from you at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Good evening, everybody. It is an absolute delight to be in conversation with Yair Golan this evening for this very special event. Kate, thank you for your introduction and for those wonderful words. and welcome to everyone who's tuning in around the country for tonight's conversation, or today's conversation, because it's the morning where Yair is. In this conversation, I want to ask Mr. Golan about October 7, about the war that followed and what can bring it to an end. I want to ask about his party, the Democrats, and what change they can offer, and if the Israeli electorate are willing to vote for something different. I want to ask about his insights for what's happening to democracy in Israel, about the settlements in the West Bank and Gaza, and about his vision for the day after the war. We're wondering if Israel can get back to a two-state solution and what it would take. And lastly, I will ask Yair Golan as well for what he sees as the true meaning of Zionism. And I wanted to say there will be time for your questions at the end, and we would love to hear from you. There's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So please pop in your questions as we're going along, and we'll leave a good 15 minutes at the end to get to as many of your questions as we can. Yair, hello.
Hello, Michaela.
So lovely to be with you. There's a lot for us to get through. I'm going to speak with you. I'll speak to you for about 35 minutes, and then we'll leave a good 15 minutes for the questions from our audience. I really wanted to start on a very difficult day. I wanted to start on October 7, and I wanted to ask you, how did you hear about the attack, and what did you do?
Oh, well, I'll make it short. I woke up as usual a bit after 6 o'clock in the morning. I start, getting all the messages, push-ups through my cell phone. It was so strange and so unusual that I opened the radio, something that I never ever do on Saturday morning. By 8 o'clock, I understood that, all right, this is something, but I cannot stay at home anymore. So I put on my old uniforms and with my private car, I drove to the headquarters of the Homefront Command. There I got, the overall picture, what we knew at that time. And I suggested the commanding officer of the Homefront Command to be his personal envoy to the front. He was very happy about it. So I took a gun and other combatant gear, and I went down to the south with my private car to a location that the war fighting was in a process. Well, I'll help them, the people there to reorganize, to search for more terrorists in the camp, in the barracks, and all right, it was almost over by noon, and then coincidentally, I got a phone call from my sister, asking me whether I can search for people who escaped the Nova Festival. And up to that moment, I didn't hear about the festival. So I asked her to send me the location. And by doing that, the rumor was, spread immediately, and people started to call me, all right, can you take my son or my daughter out of the Nova Festival location? I did, all in all, until darkness. I did, 3 trips to the Nova Festival vicinity, and I managed, to rescue only 6 people. This is very unfortunate. Maybe I could do more, but that's the intelligence I had at that time. So all in all, I went in and out 3 times, taking out 6 individuals, and continue my main mission to inform the commanding officer of the Homefront Command what is happening in the front and what to do next and what are the next missions. And that's what I did for the next 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I thought, that the situation is stable enough that no one anymore in the IDF really need my recommendations, and that I can, and that now is the time for more political activity. I was very wrong. No one in Israel even think at that time about a war of almost 2 years. No one in Israel thought at that time that after such terrible situation that tore the Israeli society from the inside, I mean, I refer to the judicial overhaul, or to the judicial reform, that it will continue and remain as a living subject in the Israeli publicity, in the Israeli political arena. So I would say that with all, the trauma of October 7th, and October 7th is a terrible trauma. Right now, if you look at the political arena, it seems to be like, there was no October 7th, that the crisis that was valid before the October 7th, it's the same crisis right now. So in Israel, we are in a kind of a national crisis, political crisis, judicial crisis, which, the security crisis is just a background to that. And this is very unfortunate. This is something we need to fix. This is a total misunderstanding that all these crises are well connected, that without touring the Israeli society from the inside for his personal considerations, I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu, that's what he did, we wouldn't have been in such a terrible security situation. On the other hand, there are some, optimistic things to say about the situation, because basically we have improved our situation in the region dramatically. It's the biggest defeat of the evil crisis, of the evil axis that led by Iran for the last 20 years. So this is a very dramatic issue in our region. And the question right now is whether we will be able to take the full advantage out of the military achievements. Unfortunately, right now, the answer is no. And I cope and I struggle with this government in order to replace it, in order to be able to forge a new government that will take the military achievements and translate them into a better security for Israel for the long run. And believe me, it's truly possible. And we must do it, and we can do it. So on the one hand, we are in a very complicated situation, national situation. On the other hand, there are much opportunities out there in the region, in the world, and of course, inside the Israeli society. And last thing, concerning the overall situation, we have a terrible government. And I think that in this meeting, Zoom meeting, there is no, I don't need to explain that. But at the same time, we need to remember that with this terrible government, we have wonderful people.
You've raised so many important things tonight, and they're things I want to ask
people
you
who
about.
volunteer, people who truly replace the government after October 7th. And in a way, the ability of the civil society in Israel is truly unbelievable. And that's kept me very optimistic. This is the only way to remain optimistic. So you are you are welcome to join this optimism, not because we need to be happy, because there is a wonderful civil society in Israel. There are a lot of people We have very good people that we can and we must work with. And we have a mission to fix the Israeli society and to take a new national course in order to stick with the fundamental Zionist project. We can revive the Zionist project.
Yes, I want to come to all those things. That's a brilliant way of beginning this conversation. Thank you so much. I want to ask you about the after October 7 happened, the retaliation was very swift. And I wanted to ask you, when we're talking about the problems with the Netanyahu government and the fighting we've seen, the war that escalated after 20 months, that's been going on for 20 months, how differently you think this war could have gone? What could have been done? What needed to be done right after it happened? Because as you say, all these things are connected.
All right. Look, from every professional perspective, we have defeated Hamas by mid-24. So basically, the war could be ended by May or by June 24. Since then, it's less and less a war for the security interest of Israel, for the safety of the Israeli public, and more a political war, a kind of a constant emergency situation which serve the interest of this coalition, the interest of this government, and mainly the interest of Benjamin Netanyahu himself. This is outrageous. This is a crime against the Israeli nation. And we need to understand it. The way to fix it is to have, well, is to replace this government as soon as possible. But what next? After that, we need to have a hostages deal. The hostages is a much wider issue rather than, the lives of these 50 personalities. It's not just about their families. It's not just about their relatives. It's about the cohesiveness of the Israeli society. If we cannot gather around this flag, what could keep us, together?
In your opinion?
These people didn't volunteer to go to Hamas. They were kidnapped by Hamas. They were neglected by this government. They were neglected by the IDF.
In your
So
opinion,
we have a very strong commitment to save them and to bring them back home.
What kind of deal needs to be made that will bring the hostages back home?
It's a very simple deal. All the main parameters are well known. It's about constant ceasefire. It's about hostages for Palestinian prisoners. It's about a recovery process for the Gaza Strip. These are the ingredients. This is the formula. There is no other formula. I can assure you, we didn't discuss anything else since March 24. It's the same thing, the same issues. The one who prevent an agreement with Hamas, and yes, we will need to reach some sort of an agreement with Hamas, directly or indirectly, it doesn't matter. The only person who blocked it for so many months is Benjamin Netanyahu. And he used all kinds of measures, including, taking very sensitive intelligence and provide the Bild newspaper from Germany in order to destroy the process of negotiations. So this is outrageous.
So you're saying that, from what you've just said, that Hamas was destroyed to some extent in the middle of last year, because there are people who say Hamas cannot be destroyed militarily, that you have to make some kind of deal with Hamas. And I wondered, from your perspective, from a security point of view, is it safe for the IDF to leave Gaza if this deal can be made? It is.
This is a very important question, very important one. Look, we have destroyed Hamas. We won Hamas. This is not the issue. There are no more brigades and no more battalions and no more companies. There is no, weapons that could threaten the Israeli home front. So you cannot kill the last Hamas member. So in order to destroy entirely Hamas and in order to defeat Hamas, and that according to any doctrine, military doctrine in the world, you need to provide the Gazans an alternative ruling entity, another government rather than Hamas. What is truly outrageous is that Israel didn't do anything in order to replace Hamas with some sort of a moderate entity. Look, we could, months ago, we could form a kind of a professional government, with genuine Palestinian figures, with much help, financial help and security help from the United Emirates and Saudi Arabia, with the backing of the EU and the US, maybe with the backing with Australia, I don't know. We could start the recovery process in certain enclaves inside the Gaza Strip to provide security for civil constructors in order to rebuild the Gaza Strip. All these fantastic things should have been done and should be initiated by Israel in order to put some sort of an alternative in front of any young Gazans. We need to take responsibility for the following question. What is best for me as a young Gazan? Yeah? What is best for me? To work for an Emirati contractor or to dig tunnels for Hamas? If you don't provide any alternative ruling entity, in fact, you keep Hamas in power. And the unbelievable situation in Israel right now is that we allow Hamas to remain in power. Why? Because we do nothing in order to replace Hamas with something, with some entity more moderate, more constructive, more cooperative with Israel. This is outrageous.
I want to come to your party now, to the Democrats, because people are so excited. You've given people a sense of hope when they hear about your platform and that you exist, that the Democrats exist. I wanted you to talk to us a bit about what the key challenges your party face in winning over the Israeli electorate. What are the big things that you have to sort of get across or get around or get through?
This is also a very important question. Look, I want you to see the big picture. When I united the Meretz party and the Labor party, I did it because I have a vision. And the vision is to unite all the liberal democratic camp of Israel. Because we need an alternative to the right. Alternative for these nationalistic, extreme nationalistic parties in the Israeli society, in the Israeli political arena. For me, it's very strange that we talk about replacing Netanyahu and his extreme right-wing followers with, I don't know, Lieberman and Bennett. Why? They could be partners, but we are the one who need to lead the Israeli society and the Israeli nation for a better future. The liberal democratic elements in the Israeli political arena. So even today, I call Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkut, let's forge the liberal democratic camp of Israel. It's not a matter of, my personal ego. It doesn't matter. We have a nation to save. So let's build together a true alternative. And if you are not willing to join me, I'm going to keep, my building effort, as a constant effort. And up to now, we are quite successful. After having in the polls 0 mandates, now we have 12. And we are a rising power in the Israeli political arena. This is the most important thing. And what can you do? You can support it. And you can convince your relatives and your friends and that all right, there is an alternative with a true ideology, with a vision. We are not, opportunists to, just, finding a kind of a gap in the Israeli political map. And we try to get, some MPs in the next Knesset. This is not the issue. It's not about myself. I am a retired general. I could, rest at home, join my grandchildren, and be happy. This is not the issue. We have a mission. We have a nation to save. And the only way to save the Israeli nation is by leading this nation with liberal democratic parties.
There's a lot being said at the moment about what Israeli people want. You can read so many different opinion pieces every week from media outlets all over the world. People speaking for Israelis, Israelis speaking for themselves. And it's a hard thing to ask you because I wanted to ask you, what do Israelis want? But the question really is, do you think that enough of them, that a majority of Israelis want what the Democrats have to offer?
Well, this is very complicated. We need to understand the Israeli mind or the Israeli soul right now. We're a nation in trauma. The trauma of October 7th is something huge, and it will be in the Israeli mind and in the Israeli souls, for many, many years ahead. It's quite complicated to overcome a trauma, a national trauma. It will take time. So we need to adjust the way we talk to the people. We need to adjust the way we put, the most important issues in the right language that can pass the trauma as a barrier between the ears of the people and reality. So what I try to convince Israelis that on the one hand, if we won't be able to keep ourselves as a liberal democratic country, we will deteriorate into a situation of, authoritarian, theocratical dictatorship.
And there are a lot of commentators who say it's very close to that already.
And if we move on this terrible path, terrible direction, then Israel will collapse into itself. And by doing that, we will project weakness to the rest of the region. And in the Middle East, the minute you project weakness to the region, someone is going to exploit that. So this is, I believe, part of the lessons out of the October 7th incident. So
I wanted to ask you.
We need to lead Israel to a liberal democratic future, but with a deep understanding of the trauma.
Yes.
Let's take, the following issue, the two-state solution as an example.
Yes.
Today, the gap between the current situation and the two-state solution is huge. People feel such a mistrust in the Palestinians that you cannot speak the same language we spoke before October 7th. So we need another language. So my personal formula for the future is that we need to reach civil separation with security responsibility. Civil separation in order to prevent annexation. Annexation is a disaster for Israel. Civil separation in order to lessen the friction between two hostile populations. Civil separation in order to provide less and less opportunities for militants and terrorists. Civil separation in order to start a kind of a reconciliation process. But at the same time, we need to keep responsibility for security in our hands. People in Israel need to understand that we, the liberal democratic people who lead Israel, have no intention to compromise their own personal security.
We were talking
This
before.
is the issue. The fact that I was a military general helps me a lot to convince people that I know security better than anyone else. People want to feel safe. And this is the first and the most important consideration. And I believe this will be the most important issue concerning the next elections in Israel.
It's interesting you mentioned the elections in Israel, because the concern for people about Israel is that democracy is under threat, that democracy is being eroded. And I wanted to ask you if you could share with us your insights about how democracy in Israel can be protected, can be brought back onto the path of protection.
Wow, this is a huge question.
We need you for 6 hours.
Basically, the threat is really severe and problematic. And you can understand that Netanyahu took zero lessons out of the incidents that led to the October 7th. So I would say that we have three main arenas: the judicial arena, the political arena, and the public arena. In the judicial arena, we do our best, but it's very problematic. And the Israeli judicial system is weak right now. So not every incident is well treated by the judicial system. So this erosion of the judicial system, well, this is a living subject in the Israeli publicity right now. And the next arena is the political one. It's very hard to be successful in the political arena while you are in the opposition. This is absolutely clear. So the achievements in the political arena are still important, and this is a way to be I would say in the minds of the people, but it's not enough. So the most important arena is the public arena. And during war, this arena is less prominent, unfortunately, because people with the anxiety, with having their sons and daughters in the military, with much reservists to serve right now, tens of thousands of reservists every single moment. Well, this is very problematic also. So I would say that it's hard to conduct a public movement and the public struggle against the judicial overall in this very critical moment of emergency. So we do our best, and we have no intention to give up. And I think that what we see up to now it's ups and downs in this struggle. But I believe that from day to day, they are less and less capable to continue with the judicial overall. And at the same time, it brings us closer and closer to the next elections. The next election campaign will be very bitter and probably violent. And I can tell you, this is the time to be in Israel and to help the liberal democratic elements to overcome much challenges that we are going to face in the next elections campaign.
I wanted to ask you a hard question, which is what the Democrats would do about the settlements and the settlers in the West Bank and Gaza.
First, we need to block any attempt to resettle in the Gaza Strip. This is, sheer craziness. At the same time, we need to reach a reasonable agreement or reasonable future or reasonable vision concerning the situation in the West Bank. It's impossible to evacuate all settlers from the West Bank tomorrow morning. So the overall solution is to reach some sort of compensation to the Palestinians. All the maps are ready. It is possible to do that. I think that we will be able to reach an agreement by evacuating less than 100,000 Israelis. The main obstacle is those settlements along the ridges of Judah and Samaria mountains. This is the most problematic issue. Not in all cases. For instance, we can overcome the issue of Gush Etzion and keep Gush Etzion as part of Israel. We can overcome the situation around Jerusalem, and we can overcome the situation of Ariel and the close vicinity around Ariel. So there is a possibility to divide the country in a way that fulfill the desires of Jews and Arabs alike. I truly believe it, but you cannot start any process like this without changing the government in Israel. So we have a long way ahead, and I think we need to concentrate all our minds in one thing: how to replace this government and how to lead Israel by liberal democratic political entity, liberal democratic party.
A big question that comes up when we talk about the elections that will come is who the Democrats are willing to make a coalition with. Other than the obvious, other than Yesh Atid and National Unity, who would you be willing to make a coalition with in order to lead government?
I think we need to be realistic, and we won't be able to fulfill all our desires. This is not politics. I'm a very practical person. So I would say the following: on the one hand, we are going to have in the next coalition, in the best next coalition, parties from the right, Bennett and Lieberman. I call them, liberal right parties, or in a way, liberal populist parties. On the other hand, I believe that we will need at least one Arab party in the next coalition. And I think that Mansour Abbas is a good candidate for that. So with a strong liberal democratic body, the combination of Yesh Atid and the blue and white and the Democrats, with one Arab party, with Bennett and Lieberman, we could have reasonable coalition. This coalition won't be able to solve all problems of Israel. I'm the first to acknowledge that. But we can move forward with such a coalition in order to show the direction, in order to forge the tendency. Where are we heading? And I believe, well, according to my vast experience with Avigdor Lieberman, we can find the common ground for sure.
Yeah.
I'm less acquainted with Bennett, but I believe he also understands who are the people who are going to vote for him. Much of them are from the liberal camp. So I believe that we can solve enough problems in order to show the way, in order to block any future attempt for that take Israel into the more authoritarian, theocratical path. And by doing that, by blocking the right tendencies and by supporting the right tendencies, we can move in the right direction, in a different direction that could be much more constructive concerning the implementation of the Zionist dream.
In a moment, I'm going to come to everyone's questions. If you have a question, just remember to put it in the Q&A box, not the chat box. That would be fantastic. My last question for you, Yair, is sort of a little bit of a diaspora question. So much since the war has begun, and always, is said about Israel in the international community, in the international media, and we've seen as well this rise in anti-Semitism around the world. And it feels like in Australia, we don't hear any moderate voices of Zionism. There are no moderate Zionists speaking. We only hear the Ben Gvir and the Smotrich. We hear the cartoons of a settler saying, if I don't steal this land, someone else.
You are the true Zionist.
How do we get more
you
moderate
are the
voices?
true Zionist. You know,
it's been very hard in Australia to speak up because Zionism and Israel are being muddied and they're being painted as one thing, one dark, bad thing. And my question for you is, how do we get more moderate voices like yours in the mainstream, in the media in Israel and around the world?
Well, this is the voice I try to provide. You know, the Israelis and Jews around the globe, and you know, everyone. We are the true Zionists. This meeting is a meeting of true Zionists. Because what is Zionism all about? It's about having a homeland for the Jewish people, for all the Jewish people in the Holy Land, and at the same time establishing free, democratic, egalitarian state. This is the issue. Zionism is basically a secular movement, a movement that have managed to tore the ropes that kept the Jewish soul for so many centuries, and to open the Jewish people to modernity. And we have no intention to give up. We have reached some fantastic achievements. And I look at Israel as one of the greatest human experiences of history. So we have no intention to give up. And we are going to revive the Zionist dream and the Zionist project. And you are the true Zionist, and you need to be proud, and you need to struggle with anyone, and you shouldn't allow anyone to silence you.
They're a fantastic
because our voice is the only voice who could save Israel from destruction.
There are so many excellent questions here coming in from people who are attending tonight. Somebody asked, in particular, how were you able to save so many people when the IDF didn't on October 7? There are so many extraordinary things being said here, but one of them is if we look at some, for example, you were talking about, you know, the Palestinians and Palestinian partners and who they are and what Israel could do for Gaza. Someone said, do you think that the anti-Hamas protests in Gaza are meaningful for the future of the region? Do they show a good sign for peace?
I'm not so sure that I understand the question. What do you mean by
that
what
we see protests against Hamas inside Gaza? You don't think that's...
It's not serious. It's not serious.
Yeah.
You know, it's well, this is the frustration. And we have weakened the Palestinians so dramatically inside the Gaza Strip. So even thinking about some sort of a protest movement against Hamas, this is totally unrealistic approach. Well, I will be totally surprised to figure out that there is a huge protest against Hamas. This is not something we see right now. So a society in such a level of destruction need help. And the only one who can help the Palestinians are the PA, the United Emirates, the Saudis, the Egyptians, and the Jordanians. So as a prime minister, and help me to be the next prime minister of Israel, I will be able to forge this coalition of moderate Arab forces in order to take this recovery process into the first stage of recovery. It's a process of at least the next 20 years. It's complicated, and we need to work with Palestinians, with others, but without feeling, true responsibility for the process, without taking the initiative for the process, and without being proactive and being full coordination with the powers I have mentioned. We won't be able to do that. And yes, it's for them, but more than that, it's for us. What do we want inside the Gaza Strip? Stability. We want in the Gaza Strip people we can trust, people we can cooperate with in order to build a better future for the region. So we need to look at the situation, at the current situation in the Gaza Strip as an opportunity to change the region and to change our relationship with the Palestinians. And in order from day to day to lessen the power of all radical elements and to strengthen the power of all moderate elements. That could serve the security of Israel and the future of the two people simultaneously.
There are very good questions here that are almost legal questions about whether Israel can be a liberal democracy without separating state and religion. Do you have any thoughts on that you could share with us?
Well, of course, it's a very prominent issue in the Democrats. And all of us believe that we need to separate religion and state. But the question is, where is the starting point? How to do that? So first, we need to keep out of power all ultra-Orthodox parties. This is first consideration. Everything starts from the political arena. And the second issue is how to invigorate more integration of the ultra-Orthodox society rather than building higher and higher walls between the ultra-Orthodox society and the rest of the society. So it's about the very basic question: what do we want? More isolation or more integration? I believe in integration. And in order to reach integration, we need to lessen the political power of the ultra-Orthodox.
Thank you. The people are also saying that, back to what we were talking about how people feel in Israel, that Israel seems to be enormously divided at the moment. These great divisions of what people think should be done, that Israel is very polarized. What can be done to unite Israeli people together in order, as you say, to make change and to get Israel sort of robust and back on track?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because we see all over the world two phenomena: populism and polarization. This is not, a unique situation in Israel. It encompasses, I would say, much of the democratic world. This struggle with polarization and populism. In Israel, populism led to polarization. It's not the same in every nation, but in Israel, it's about populism, populist leaders who led to more and more polarization. So I believe that in order to overcome the polarization, we need to lead Israel with a reasonable government, with a reasonable prime minister. It won't be done by Netanyahu. So we need to change Netanyahu as soon as possible. And we need to make sure that no populist leader will be able to take control over Israel in the next 10 years. This is the way to recover the Israeli society. I believe that the level of polarization is not so significant in the Israeli society, except one major issue: the Palestinian issue. So if we will be able to convince more and more Israelis that this formula of civil separation and security responsibility is well fitted to our destiny, to our future, to our security, then I believe we can move forward in a very safe manner.
There's an excellent question here. It's come up obviously with the conscription bill, that people are saying, what is the Democrats' policy on military conscription for the Haredim?
Well, this is a kind of a very populist issue. And yes, I want to see all of them serve in the military. And I believe that, in equal duties and equal rights to every citizen in Israel. This is a very basic issue in democracy. But we cannot change the current situation by night. So I believe that the way to move forward is to work simultaneously on more and more sanctions to those who do not serve, and at the same time provide more and more benefits to those who serve, and create a kind of a tendency, a kind of a movement that change the situation from the current situation, which is almost zero serving in the military, to more and more integration. And I think here the figures are quite clear, but it's not enough to deal only with the new draft law. We need to ask, serious questions about the education system. We cannot accept an education system which is totally isolated from any national values, and with no math, and with no English, with no science. This is truly impossible. And we need to think about convincing more and more ultra-Orthodox men to work go to work. You cannot rely on the government getting funds from the rest of the society and do nothing. This is you need to be in the labor market. You need to be part of the labor market. So it's about education. It's about being part of the labor market. It's about being part of the Israeli economy, and it's about serving in the military.
I want to ask you one last question before we let you go. I think everyone, I can see all the questions. We would keep you with us for hours, but you're a very busy man. You have things to do. I wanted to ask you a question about what people in Australia can do, what we can do to support a democratic Israel. I know you've talked about we can call our friends and family and convince them to vote for you, but what can we do in Australia to support a democratic Israel? Because that's front and center for so many people.
Well, there are solid issues like helping us building a true liberal democratic infrastructure. And I can provide you the right phone number or through Jonah that can do it, easily. And we build a civil, liberal, democratic infrastructure right now, something we didn't do in the last, 30 years. This is a shame, by the way, but this is an ongoing project, and there are much opportunities to do something constructive. So this is one issue. The second issue is, help us to get more and more support. So spreading the rumor that there is an alternative in Israel. And I'm sure that you have much relatives in Israel, and this is just to say to convince more and more people that there is an alternative with a vision, with a true vision, with good people who do not care so much about what is the next job or something like that, but really want to save the country. And I think it's not just about me; it's about my colleagues. We have wonderful people in our party, and wonderful people in the future list, and with magnificent candidates for being MPs. So I think this is a softer issue, but it's also very, very important.
Yair Golan, thank you so much. You've given us so much to think about. Thank you for answering all of our questions and giving us a sense of what life is really like in Israel and for Israelis, with the trauma and with all the hope that we all want for Israel's future to be fair and democratic.
I would like to say last thing, and look, Israel is the project of the Jewish people. So thank you so much for caring, for helping, for supporting, and for being involved in this magnificent project. We won't allow anyone to destroy this wonderful project. Israel is ours, and we will make Israel great again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yair Golan. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. This will be recorded. You can have a version of this to watch again and listen again and take notes as he speaks. And we'd love you to fill out the survey that's in the chat coming up now as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us tonight. We hope to see you at the next NIF event. Yair Golan, thank you and good luck, and we'll be with you.
Thank you, Michaela.
Pleasure. Pleasure. Good evening, everyone.